Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Won't somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy? Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phone, barefaced.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Very good afternoon, Monday the 10th of February 2025. My name is Raja Miah. It's very windy where I am. I've not been out yet, and my apologies for being late. I am a one-man enterprise, and the editing of last night's video took considerable time before I managed to put it up. So that is now up there. So those of you who didn't join us last night, you're better off going and watching it, the edited version on YouTube. I take out a lot of the gaps and just tidy it up a little bit so more people can watch it. What you should have all taken from last night, those of you who've watched it, is how we have been here before under the Conservative Party, and now we're in the same place under the Labour Party. And essentially what they're going to do is they'll try and manage the situation so that this news has now come out. In 2014 it came out in Rotherham, in 2018 it came out in Telford, and more recently it came out in Telford again when the inquiry there was published, and also in Oldham. And what did they do, the assurance review in Oldham? What they do is just manage it, and then it goes away. And you can all see for yourselves how the media bandwagon has moved on, and those of us who are left in this space are fewer than we once were. Nonetheless, what is different this time is that it is a political campaign. It's a political campaign led by myself and a small number of people from my town, and a growing number of people from elsewhere across the country and beyond, thanks to the power of X and Facebook and YouTube, to name a few. I don't really use TikTok, so that's lost on me. I think what we've tried to do, we knew what was coming. We knew what Yvette Cooper would do, which was, after the outrage, try and do something to manage it. And we knew what we would do because we now have politicians in the council chamber who are working with us, because that's what 6 years gets you. Politicians who appreciate, who are invested in this, the same as we are, want justice for these children, the same as we do, and who were elected on a mandate to deliver justice for these children. And I know it's hard to believe, politicians who, few and far between I accept, who would like to honour their pledges to the people, such as you and me. So what we did was we put together, we lobbied, and the Conservatives submitted a motion for an extraordinary council meeting, and that council meeting is scheduled for 6 o'clock on Wednesday in the Civic Centre in Oldham. My plan, so we're all clear so far, my plan is probably not to go and rather do a live broadcast for the many of you from all over the place who are interested in this, who clearly can't get to that council meeting. So my plan as of this moment is not to go. It might change, but my plan as of this moment is not to go. If I do go, I'll try and record and release information as I'm there. But we shall see how that plays out. So the motion essentially, and I'll bring it up, and I won't go through it too much. It'll be quick, this one. This is the motion. You can see it on the Oldham Council's page. And it basically, one introductory paragraph, 7 things that it notes. So these are records, facts on the ground, and a resolution. And the resolution is right at the end, to write to the Home Office to demand that His Majesty's Government initiate without any further delay a national public inquiry into the scourge of child sexual exploitation by rape gangs, both historic and current, in Oldham, Greater Manchester, in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, we want a national public inquiry. And by that, initiate without any further delay. By that, what that means, essentially, is that Yvette Cooper's proposed local inquiries, of which Oldham is one of 5, is dead in the water. That's what this motion is set out to do. There are 60 councillors in the council chamber, and we need 31 of them to vote our way. Simple as that. That happens, that letter goes immediately to the Home Office. We will make sure it's publicised and reported on in the national news and the international news. And then there's pressure, isn't there? The very place where you've said you're going to launch this inquiry have told you they're not interested in your inquiry because it lacks the powers. Why would you want to waste £1 million, another year, cause more heartache, cause more distrust and division, when you can just launch a public inquiry, a national inquiry? And the town that you've sent it to, you want to launch this in, has rejected it. That is our game plan. Simple as that. Using democracy in the council chamber, no point protesting outside on the streets holding placards. They manage all of that. We beat them at the ballot box, and we beat them using their own systems and processes, in this case, a council chamber and meetings and votes there. My information is that the Liberal Democrats, believe it or not, the Liberal Democrats, not the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats are trying to put an amendment in to change the wording of the motion. Now, when you get to an extraordinary council meeting, you shouldn't be amending anything, because the people who've gone to the trouble of it have put it in. The Liberal Democrats had the opportunity and haven't put anything in. And now the Liberal Democrats are putting in an amendment. And that amendment should have been up on the council's webpage by lunchtime today. It isn't there yet, so I think there's some legal issues with their amendment. And the legal issues will be that they're trying to change things. I've gone through this, and I know how some of the people's minds work here, because it's very simple. Council notes that 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6, these are facts on the ground, 7 facts on the ground. You can't really amend facts on the ground, particularly when those facts on the ground are quotes. So for instance, look at number 5. Notes the comments made by the Home Secretary, the Right Honourable Yvette Cooper MP, which is noted in Hansard, quote. You can't really amend something that's a fact on the ground. And the council resolve, write to the Home Office to demand that His Majesty's Government initiate without any further delay a national public inquiry into the scourge of child sex exploitation by rape gangs, both historic and current. Now, if I was a Liberal Democrat and I wanted to scupper this, the first question I'd be asking is, why? Why would white women like Helen Bishop want to scupper this? I'll bring something up. This is how messed up Oldham is. First of all, you need to look at this. This is a man called Irish Shimmy. Remember Dale Cregan's getaway driver hangs off the arm of Arood Shah? Convicted heroin dealer. I think he was also convicted for supplying, reported anyway in the council chamber, of supplying Viagra. Irish Shimmy, I've been considering standing for election to become a councillor or MP here in Oldham. As an independent, of course. And you can see he's got 200 likes, of which Theresa Smith Conway is one of them. Theresa Smith Conway is one of the survivors, so-called survivors. She's actually not a survivor. Her son committed suicide, and she's claiming her son committed suicide because he was caught up in some form of exploitation ring in Oldham. And here he is at his launch, and it begins. Vote Irish Shimmy Werneth Ward 2026. It's happening, inshallah. Make Werneth great again. Hashtag Irish Immy follow, and it begins. Thank you for the invite and the support. And these are some of his guys. What you've got in Werneth is there's a guy called Ray. Ray stood, let me see if I can find it. Ray stood as a Lib Dem candidate. He's not Ray, he's just his nickname, by the way. He's a Pakistani guy. Ray stood as a Lib Dem candidate in the most recent election. No ifs, no buts. And now it appears that the Pakistanis who supported the Lib Dems in Werneth are now supporting Irish Immy. So basically you've got the Lib Dem supporters, the traditional Lib Dem voter base, the traditional Lib Dem Pakistani voter base, in Werneth, now involved with Irish Immy. Here you go, I've got it. Here's Afzal Khan with Sajid Hussain. The guy on the end at the bottom left with the glasses on is the Lib Dem candidate from the last elections. Runs a tyre place. I have no issue with Ray. Last time I saw him was we had a cup of coffee together. And here you've got the Pakistanis fighting the Pakistanis, because the Labour faction are fighting this faction. So Oldham Werneth is going to have a criminal, a Cregan getaway driver, Muhammad Ali, widely known as Irish Immy, standing for election in 2026. Lo and behold, Liberal Democrat candidates who stood in 2024 are backing him. So the Liberal Democrats have not issued a statement distancing themselves from their members and their former election candidates, of which a man is Irish Immy. Irish Immy, of course, has got this relationship with Arud Shah, and it clearly has been in Arud Shah's interest and the Labour Party's interest to scupper the elections. Really? 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 Oh my. So what we've got is the Liberal Democrats playing politics, attempting to secure the Muslim vote in their own way. Otherwise, they would have immediately distanced themselves from these former candidates of theirs. I'd presume they're still members, but there'd be a statement issued. So in the same way, the Labour Party have played for votes on this issue, it appears the Liberal Democrats are doing so as well. And it disappoints me. It genuinely disappoints me. So there's that going on in the background. What else is going on in the background is the Liberal Democrats in Oldham are the official opposition. And they attempted, at the time, to form a coalition with the Conservatives and the Oldham group. The other independents sabotaged it and basically got in bed with Arud Shah. It's murky, it's dirty. It's a conversation for another day. It's a reason why no one in their right mind should be anywhere near politics. Thank you, Martin. But what we've got is an attempt here, if you accept my political analysis, my political analysis would be the Oldham group. That's the Pakistani sectarians. And if you saw GB News yesterday, you'll have seen the Pakistani sectarians in full effect in Birmingham. We have our own branch in Oldham called the Oldham Group. They call themselves the Oldham Group, although they're exclusively Muslim and all but one Pakistani. It's like the guy wearing the England top in the GB News interview yesterday. They're just mocking you, mocking us. The Oldham Group need to get rid of the Conservatives. Lewis Quigg in particular, Dave Arnott, they need to get rid of the Conservatives. And I would imagine there's been some form of coordination between the Liberal Democrats and the Oldham Group on the hope that by doing this they will increase their numbers and they will eventually take control of the council. So when my friend David Nestor asked me about how the Oldham Group will vote, this is how the Oldham Group will vote, and this is what will happen. Because we can play these games all day long. If I was to try and scupper it, Lib Dem style, and say they get their motion approved, which currently is stuck in legals because they tried to amend quotes on the ground. You can't change quotes. Matter of fact, matter of public record. You can't amend what someone's already said in a motion. That's for stupidity. If I was to amend it, I would do this. One, I'd help my Pakistani mates to hide the Pakistani referencing and go down that well-travelled liberal lane of it happens everywhere. Every community has it. We need to get rid of it everywhere. So that's one thing I'll do. So in that motion, where the language makes reference to Pakistani rape gangs, I'd get rid of the word Pakistani and replace it all with wishy-washy liberal nonsense of happens everywhere, scourge, this, that. We now know that the reason we're focusing on this is because this is a national shame that has been allowed to continue in a way that the other instances of child abuse has not. We now know there are racial factors to this and political factors to this, and it's distinct. This form of grooming on gang rape of children, this form of abuse of children is distinct, it's unique. But they'll try and do that. So that's the first thing I'll do. The second thing I'd do, being the Lib Dems, I'd try and find the odd typo I'm not comfortable with. Listen, you had the opportunity to put your own motion in, you didn't do. If there's a typo, if someone's used the word this instead of that, no, leave it alone. But they will, that's what they'll do. But you know what they'll do? Which is what you saw what's her name, Jess Phillips do, Yvette Cooper do, Arood Shah do. They'll all, like the weasels they are, the cowards they are, they will hide behind the survivors. And say things like the survivors agreed to this, the survivors want justice, survivors want to just move along nicely and not have any games. Well, let me bring you something up. Here is what one of the survivors said. And this survivor can't stand me, by the way, which is completely fine. She tried to have me arrested. We want justice. Woman gang raped in Oldham, aged 12, demands grooming inquiry but tells far right to stay out. Samantha Walker Roberts. Now, the thing with Samantha Walker Roberts and her stories were very well documented. And by the way, Samantha, before you get angry and phone the police, this is an article in the Independent. Anyone can go and find it. And it's an article in the Independent from the 8th of January. Miss Walker Roberts, who is campaigning for a government probe into the crimes in Oldham with 2 other survivors, believes us. So that's it. There's 3 of them. And I know none of the 3, by the way, are the classic grooming gangs that we talk about. None of them, even Samantha, none of them are the classic grooming gangs of being groomed over a period of time, abused, gang raped, trafficked. None of them fit that criteria. Her demands fall short of the full national inquiry demanded by the Tories amid fears Oldham would get lost in a nationwide probe. She told The Independent, "I would like a government-led inquiry, not a national inquiry, because Oldham will get lost in it." He has to listen or he's going to be called into question. If he can't do right for survivors, then what can he do for the country? She said she believes some people, including jailed far-right political activist Tommy Robinson, who had styled himself as a campaigner exposing Asian grooming gangs, were misrepresenting the issue as a problem with Pakistani grooming gangs. Her abuser was from Bangladesh. Well, actually, one of her abusers was from Bangladesh. The only views that matter are the survivors. No. No, no, no. The only views that matter are not just the survivors. Not family members, not members of the public. Family members matter, members of the public matter, the entire country matters. I think that exactly, Julie. I think that exactly. It infuriates me that they like to put everybody under the same umbrella of Pakistani grooming gangs. This is not the case because mine were predominantly Bengalis. Well, let's describe them as Muslim then. You know what do you want to describe them as? There is an ethnic correlation, isn't there, Samantha? These were racially motivated crimes, weren't they, Samantha? The survivor hopes a government review into Oldham would lead to proper accountability. Well, we now know that that government review into Oldham proposed has no statutory powers whatsoever. So on what basis does this young woman believe it will hold anyone to proper accountability? Here's the contradiction. So she wants a local review. This is when you know they don't know what they're talking about, they're being manipulated. Here's the contradiction. Miss Walker-Roberts said a local review, similar to the one already held into grooming gangs in Telford. So that's what they're proposing in Oldham, but with a fraction of the price, remember? And without the independence. Would not effect real change. So she's admitting it would not effect real change. She also questioned whether Oldham Council had all the resources needed for a local inquiry. She called for survivors to be central to every stage of any inquiry, including setting the terms of reference. What on earth do survivors know about terms of reference, of where and how in the systems of government things are hidden? You can see yourself. So first of all, they will hide the ethnic relevance, the Lib Dems, if they get the amendment through. Then they will hide behind the survivors. But in the end, they won't be able to hide behind what it is we write to the government to do. And what we set out on this journey, that we write to the government to do, is reject Yvette Cooper's proposal for a toothless local inquiry. Save your money, Yvette. Save us the time, hassle and heartache. We reject it, and we want to be part of a national inquiry. Now, if you followed my work, you will know, right from the start when this broke, I held my hands up and said, I have been campaigning for Oldham, but I now recognise this is more than Oldham. This is for every one of us in towns and cities across this entire nation who have suffered this way, and we, the people of Oldham, have a responsibility to support everyone else everywhere else I am on record saying that. These scroats will claim that working as part of a national inquiry, Oldham will get lost in it and become a footnote. Of course, that's a complete fallacy. It's a complete myth. Because the facts on the ground are we are here because of Oldham, and no one would dare to do that. Yeah. So that's what they'll do. They'll then say, oh, we don't want Oldham to get lost in it. Well, Oldham won't get lost in a national inquiry, because Oldham will be at the forefront of the national inquiry. And then, of course, we have people like Helen Bishop herself, who before she was a councillor, and I pick on Helen because she's on record. She's on public record. Here she is. A younger version of Helen Bishop. Can Oldham handle the truth about historic child sexual exploitation? Youth worker. Voluntary youth worker Helen Bishop. And this goes back to October 2019. Helen, although she won't admit it now, is an old friend of mine. When she was a youth worker, I worked with young people in the town. She's now a Lib Dem councillor. It's not whether Oldham can handle the truth, Helen. It's whether you are prepared to stand up for the truth, now that you're a councillor, a politician, on a different trajectory in life. So let's see if that amendment comes. I know it's stuck in legals, and if it does come, and I've seen enough of what's going to happen, so I've got that. But I don't want to share it until the council put it out. And of course, they've still got time to withdraw. Haven't you, Sam Al-Hamdani, Helen Bishop? Yeah, I know. You now know I know. And that takes us to the next partner in attempting to facilitate this cover-up. And it has always been the Local Democracy Service through the Manchester Evening News. The Local Democracy Service, for those of you who don't know, is like the local community reporters that are funded by the BBC, funded by you. And in my town, they have been part of the smear campaign and propaganda unit that would be more akin to something in East Germany than in a working class town such as mine. True to form, here is the article. I've stopped telling people where I live and work, and the latest local democracy reporter is this young woman called Charlotte Hall. I've seen her with a bicycle, clips and a helmet, clearly from South Manchester. So she took a picture of Failsworth, which is hilarious, Failsworth Oldham, because Failsworth is not Oldham. It pays its council tax to Oldham and it's in the borough of Oldham, but go and speak to the people of Failsworth and they'll tell you they don't belong to Oldham. They've got a Manchester postcode and the constituency is a Manchester constituency. Maybe that's as far down the road as she got before she turned back. Oldham keeps hitting national headlines. Outside the borough, the name has in many corners become synonymous with the heated debate on inquiries into historic child sexual exploitation. The issue is at the centre of an increasingly toxic and confrontational politics in Oldham Council. Confrontational. I'll have it. I'll take that. Thank you. David, my friend David, is from Failsworth. If you are finding value in this broadcast, I'm just looking. I think 3 of you have bought me some coffees. And there's 156 of you currently watching with me right at this point, and there's 482 of you on here. I get told off by my people who support me to do this. I need to stop every now and then and pause and say, please, if you find value in my work, hold up, I'll put the main camera up. Please, if you find value in my work, support me. All of my content goes out 100% free to air. I work day and night on this 7 days a week. It's as simple as straightforward as that. And I have been doing this for the last 6 years, which has got us to where we now are. We are 2 days away from a vote in a council chamber. That, if it goes our way, should mean Yvette Cooper's attempts to continue the cover-up of the systematic grooming and gang rape of children across this entire country are scuppered, and they're back to the drawing board. And the likes of Kemi Badenoch, Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe can all go back to Parliament and push for a national inquiry. I share all my work on YouTube. You're here, it's free. If you've not subscribed, just click the subscribe, please. I have very modest numbers, embarrassingly modest numbers for the work I do and the engagement I have. There's a Buy Me a Coffee link at the top and a PayPal link at the top. My preference is, if you can and want to, support me this way, because I get most of the money. So if you give me £1, I get most of that £1. If you give me £3 or £5, I get most of that. But ideally, you need to be signed up to my newsletter, Red Wall and the Rabble. It's completely free. If you can afford to pay, you can either pay for £3 a month or just pay for the full year at £30. There's more if you want. If you can afford more, you can pay more. And if you can't afford anything, it's fine. It's free, but still sign up. We need numbers. Without numbers, we're not going to win this, because without numbers, it's easy for them to ignore us. The reason this made the news in which it did and made the breakthrough was because Elon Musk spoke out, and Elon Musk has numbers. I'm not saying we need those sorts of numbers ever again, but we're not going to win with 500 people supporting me or 800 people or 1,000 people on a newsletter. It's why for the last month or so, I've travelled the entire country speaking on podcasts, trying to raise the profile, not my profile, but the profile of what's really going on here and what we need to do to get this over the line. Otherwise, we'll go back to exactly where we were in 2014, when Theresa May was Home Secretary, and it'll go nowhere. And we'll all be stuck. So all you have to do is support me. And I will do the heavy lifting. And once I've done the heavy lifting, if you don't agree with me, ask me. Ask me whatever question you want, and I'll do my best to answer it. And when I've got it wrong, I'll tell you I've got it wrong. When I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. But like, subscribe, and share the work. And if you can, put your hand in your pocket and support me with a couple of pounds. I am 100% community funded, and because of what I do, I will never work again. It's as simple as that. And for those of you who think this is easy, come and try it. Thank you. Thank you. So, I'll bring this article up. Not that I've got a screen here that shows whether any coffees have been bought. Not that any of that has made any difference. Any of that spiel has made any difference. Where does that leave the residents of Oldham? And has their opinions of the council changed since the scandal was made waves in the media? Apparently someone stopped telling people where they live or work. Shanish. She comes from Rochdale, another borough affected by the horrific activities of a grooming gang in the 2000s. Actually, not just one grooming gang. There's a trial going on right now. There's more than one gang in Rochdale that have been convicted. That's Cameron Gaffar, for those who don't know him. So they've used all of this is intentional, by the way. So they're using a picture of Cameron Gaffar to somehow show as though he's on the side of us. He isn't. If he took a picture of anyone, it would have been Lewis Quick. That's you though, isn't it? That's David Gidman there, in the back. With my friend Dean Ludford. I think a lot of things could have been avoided if they had cracked down on the grooming gang sooner and put them into prison. Of course, the people in Oldham and Rochdale aren't all bad. I live there, I come here, and I don't think the media helps. I think if everyone actually worked together and communicated on the issues and spoke to local people, a lot of the problems could be solved. Absolute nonsense. I mean, this is just, tittle-tattle. She believes the council and authorities could do better in general. Move on. Down the road, Failsworth. A 39-year-old woman said, who did not want to be named, "It will have a wider impact on the perception. It probably goes further than we realise." Her 75-year-old neighbour admitted he had strong opinions on the subject. It's happened, everyone knows it's happened, especially the young girls it's happened to, and it needs to be sorted out. It should have been cleared up years ago, that rumours, that stigma, but they couldn't because it was always thrown out of the chambers. I've seen videos where it just seems like they shut the chambers down when people started asking questions about this sort of thing. Those videos are right. You have seen those videos. Oldham has had several explosive meetings about CSE issues over the past 6 years. 6 years. Conservative and independent groups repeatedly called for a government-led inquiry, while Labour members defended the GMCA-led review that found significant failings in the way local authorities and police dealt with victims and whistleblowers. Significant failings. As well as tense exchanges between councillors, a number of meetings had to be adjourned after protesters repeatedly heckled and hurled insults at members. When you stand up and you lie in a council meeting as an elected official, what do you think a survivor of the grooming gangs is going to say? What do you think they're going to say? Of course, they're going to shout in outrage. One of the neighbours said she thought it was a lot of delicate stories intertwined and that historic racial tensions in Oldham had made it difficult to approach the subject without worrying about treading on toes. But both neighbours agreed that whilst the CSC inquiry is an important conversation, it was not the main issue affecting most residents in the borough. It's not the main issue. The grooming and gang rape of our children is not the main issue. Fly tipping is. Potholes are. And apparently it's because the council's got no money. The bloody bins in the town centre. Dog shit. Back alleys full of shit. That's the reality. And there's Joyce. She then goes on to speak to a guy in Werneth called Ubaid Khan, 49. Often, residents had heard of the CSE issue and felt it was something that needed to be dealt with, but felt they couldn't express much of an opinion on it, as it didn't affect them personally. Can you see the narrative they're trying to spin? I've heard about the grooming gang stuff, but I don't know much about it, says Werneth resident Ubaid Khan. I think it's right that they're inquiring about it. I don't want any criminal to get away just because they are Pakistani. I'm Pakistani myself, by the way. But because it doesn't affect Ubaid, he wants to know about the housing shortage. He's really struggling with his rent. Other interviewees listed lack of job opportunities, crime and deprivation levels that needed to be addressed by the council. Yet most residents the MEN spoke to admitted they didn't really engage with local politics and weren't aware of any conflicts in the chambers. I don't really care about the council as they don't fuck with me, Joseph, 22, said as he was walking down Oldham High Street with his partner Serena, 23. The couple moved to Durka just a year ago. And they said they don't know nor care who the local councillors were and what they did. So long as they're collecting our bins, I don't care about anything else. That's a nicer bit of Durka, actually. Some bits of it aren't as pretty as that. Another youngster told the MEN in passing, I don't think I've seen anything in the news about Oldham Council, so they're probably fine, right? I don't really have an opinion. And Oldham mum, Bemmy, 39. She's lived in Oldham for 7 years. First in Sholven, now in Shaw. I don't know much about the council, but I guess they do a good job. I've been living here for 6 to 7 years, and I can't think of any complaints. I love it here because it's really peaceful where I live. Oldham Council Civic Centre on the night Turning Point UK, a right-wing group protested outside. A right-wing group. Why don't you just call them far-right racists and be done with it? You see what they're doing? And then, a Chadderton resident said, I've refused to pay my council tax. All the pubs and shops are gone. So, you know, make you look like a bunch of dumb white folk. Who are clinging onto your culture as the, in an ever-changing world. I mean, that's the narrative they want to present for you guys. Here we go. And then, apparently something to do with COVID-19. And a conspiracy about the pandemic. Now, last I looked, the conspiracy, more and more of the conspiracy is looking more and more likely to be true. They want to carry out another inquiry, the 83-year-old said. But we did one years ago, and they haven't acted on the results. This one will take another 15 years, and then nothing will happen again. They put my, you know, there's that of Sue. Nick is there. If you you can see. Religiously, these ladies go. I'm sat in the back. Looking moody. Arud Shah says, we always welcome views from residents about the borough and the council and actively seek to gather feedback so that we can constantly improve. I'd like to thank these people who took the time to stop and talk to the MEN because the views of any Oldhamer is really important to me. Great things are happening in Oldham. Great things are happening in Oldham. And we would ask those residents who are unhappy with our services to feed back to us directly so we can alleviate their concerns, but also to take a look at some of the brilliant work being done by the dedicated public servants who work around the clock to make Oldham the best place it can possibly be. I have no idea what she has been smoking, snorting, drinking, or whatever it is when she made that statement. It's concerning to read that some people believe the disinformation that is often put out about Oldham on social media. In a world where it is harder and harder for the truth to find its voice, We would urge Oldhamers not to believe the social media mouthpieces who spout nonsense about our town from the comfort of their armchairs or bedrooms, and who usually have their own personal axe to grind. Instead, look for reliable, honest and trustworthy sources of information. The Manchester Evening News is neither honest, reliable or trustworthy, and I would argue nor is Arooj Shah, the Pakistani gangster-endorsed council leader. What this article is designed to do is put pressure on Wednesday's council meeting. That CSE is not important, and there's no point dealing with this, there's no point talking about this, never mind have an extraordinary council meeting. So what if a few thousand of our town's children got gang raped? They're only white and working class. They don't matter. We need to focus on the bins and the potholes. So what if the ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang worked for us for 18 years and from his office sold children? And so what that the council covered up his crimes with the police 9 times? That's the Manchester Evening News attempting to create a parallel reality, an alternative reality where people do not care. I can assure you that we do care. And we are fighting not just for our children, but for children across this entire country. And I would suffer 1,000 potholes and my bins not emptied as frequently as they should do if it meant children were not dragged off the streets in broad daylight into shisha bars where they were groomed and gang raped, threatened to be doused in petrol if they didn't do as they were told. There was a meeting coming on Wednesday. The only way our story gets out and what is really happening is if you help share that. We are fighting the mainstream media. We are very small and we are losing. And without your help we will lose. And if we lose in Oldham, we will lose everywhere. I'll tell you that for nothing. If we lose in Oldham, we will lose everywhere. This is the best chance we have. And Wednesday might not be our last chance, but it is a big, big chance. And I say this to my friends in the Conservatives. There are times in life when you feel urged you want to fight because you know what they are doing is wrong. But we cannot fight every fight, nor should we want to fight every fight, even though every fight feels important to us. The Liberal Democrats, if they manage to get the amendment through, will not be able to change the substantive element of the motion, which is 1, reject the inquiry that Yvette Cooper wants and write back to her to say no, we want a national inquiry. We need the votes to get that letter over the line, however it looks like. If they remove the Pakistani Rape Gang reference from them, let them remove the Pakistani Rape Gang reference from them. Because ultimately the win here is rejecting the inquiry and demanding a national inquiry, a statutory inquiry, with genuine powers. That is our aim, not a petty squabble. So please stand up and make your point. But when the vote comes, however pain you feel, whatever pain you feel, you need to think of the town, you need to think of the borough, you need to think of the nation. Because you are now not just representing a small borough, you are representing millions of us. And you are speaking on behalf, fighting on behalf of hundreds of thousands of children who are groomed and gang raped. My friends, I urge you, I beg you, swallow your pride. Let them tinker with it. Let them remove the Pakistani reference. Let them talk about other types of grooming. Let them do all those things we know they will do. But get the vote over the line, because ultimately what we want is for the rejection of this local inquiry. And that will send shock waves through government. The council that you want to support has rejected the support you've offered and are remaining steadfast in the desire for a national inquiry, a statutory inquiry. And remember, this is still a Labour-led council, and they'll have to vote this way. Because if they don't vote this way, as the young lady Charlotte Hall said, confrontational politics. I have no qualms with confrontational politics. And as I have demonstrated, myself and the people of my town are quite happy to confront tyrants and beat them at the ballot box. So, that is where we are up to. I hope you found the analysis of value. If the amended motion does come up, and I've got something but I don't want to share it. If the amended motion does come up, I will come back immediately and share that with you before Wednesday. My plan is to come back this evening for the Lotus Eaters interview. It's been concerning me with not just the interview, just the other things going on around. My plan is to come back later on this evening. I can only do so with your support. Please, at the very least, like and subscribe. And if you can, support me by taking out a subscription to Redwall and Rabble, either paid or free. We need numbers, and without numbers, we will lose. Very good afternoon.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.